Guys, Doger here with a new video, and this video is my take on Classic Plus, and we are very near of a Classic Plus, depending on what people think what is near. For me, 1 year is near. I would say 1 year, 1 year and a half. Classic Plus is something that is going to happen. I think it will happen mid TBC to fresh things up. They're going to put out Classic Plus, and it will probably kill the TBC servers. It is what it is. Depending on what people think. I'm still like doing the rank 12 grind on at least my druid. I'm done with my warrior. I don't think I'm going to do the rank 13 yet. I think I'm going to wait till like the next AV weekend. That's my take right now. But let's talk about Classic Plus. What would I like to see in Classic Plus? And why is the reason why I'm making this video is because I think we need to put out a lot of feedback on what people would like to see as a Classic Plus, because they're doing SOD and they're throwing things at the wall and see what sticks, and there are definitely things that I do not want to see on the wall still. So I'm going to directly say what I do not want to see from Classic Plus, and then I'm going to work my way to what I would like to see for PvE, for PvP, for open world, for zones. Do you want extra levels and whatnot? That's things that you can discuss and we can all discuss. But let's talk right away. What I do not want to see is a Classic Plus being a seasonal server. No, Classic Plus should be, in my opinion, if you want to incentivize the most content possible and like being like a thing, a standalone, it should be probably with an expansion. Yes, people are going to shoot me already. They're going to say, "Oh, Dore, you want to make people spend money on the Classic Plus?" Hear me out. If you actually get a expansion, which is Classic Plus, and you know that you're going to get most likely expansions are like afterwards. This is going to be a standalone. You can see it as a World of Warcraft 2. You can see it as World of Warcraft Classic Plus edition, where you get expansions for that specific version of the game. So it will never end. It should not ever end. It should not be that you want to have fresh servers on a Classic Plus, except if they really mess up and they like ruin with like bad expansions, whatnot. That's something I don't want to see, like a seasonal thing where every year you don't know what's going to happen on your game, that people are like inside of that year, the year has passed and you don't know if it's worth it to start up Classic Plus, because you don't know if it's going to like stand the test of time, or you don't know if they're going to reset the server very soon like they do with SOD. That's the problem for SOD. Like, it's very hard to get into phase 8 if you haven't played the previous phases, or if you have left in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. It's very hard to come back to a phase 8 knowing that in 2-3 months, maybe 4 months, it's going to be in an era server and people will leave eventually. No, it should not be seasonal. It should definitely not be seasonal. What else? I would also say the power creep. And whenever I'm talking about power creep, I think people like sometimes don't understand. Power creep is the tendencies of gear, literally, like, to put it grossly, like one-upping themselves every single time, like one raid always overwriting the other. Literally, like, there is no other reason to go back to MC, no other reason to go back to PWL, no other reason to go back to AQ, etc. That's something that I really don't like from like, I'm also a retail player, right? I play on retail. I'm going to cut WhatsApp, I'm very sorry. I'm also a retail player, and I don't want to have classic retail. I want to have Classic Plus, because retail, the issue that I have is that every single season they add crazy amount of eye levels to the gear, which is always multiplicative. So at one point your more strike is doing 500k, the next season is doing 2 million, the season afterwards is going to be 4 million, and the HP pools are like going from 1 million to 5 million to 10 million to 15 million. And at one point, what is like enough numbers? I don't want that in Classic. I don't want to have the feeling that I'm playing Classic Plus and it is 50k health. That I do not want to see. I think you should like take the things that do work in like different like games, like for example Guild Wars 2, If you have played Guild Wars 2, you know, but there is no real vertical progression between the expansions. You have different elite specializations, which are like specs, you can see it like that. And they have their own problem because they put out like a new elite specialization, which kind of overrides the previous ones. It is what it is. But what I sometimes like about Guild Wars 2 is that there is like horizontal progression. There's always reasons to do content because you want to have like something like evergreen, for example, legendary, where you can swap the stats, whatnot. Like those are the things that are good for Guild Wars 2, although they lack the verticality, which sometimes is needed for MMO. And that's something that I think World of Warcraft does very well, the verticality of the game. But sometimes verticality is not everything. If you keep on doing like super steep verticality, and I think in Classic you already see that problem once you are in Nax, because Nax gear and MC gear has like nothing to do with each other, because simply the gear is just better. Like a lot of the gear that you can get from Nax is actually wearable, while in MC, if you're a DPS warrior, you don't really have a lot of upgrades on every single piece. Like most of the pieces are good, they are dungeon pieces. That's a problem from Classic, but I think that the scarcity in the beginning of Classic is what makes the strength of Classic, like having to do dungeons, having to have crafted gear to be competitive. Is something like, for example, like retail doesn't have that anymore. You kind of have like Mythic Plus, you have rating and whatnot, but that is not like. I'm going to like destroy him here really quickly. That's something like. Oh, I'm gonna leave you. That's something like retail doesn't really do well. You have Mythic Plus and rating, and you have PvP. They have like all equal, so. Basically, once you have done like something, there is no real crossover needed. What I think Classic does very well is that since the scarcity of the gear is really, really bad, but it should be improved. That's like a thing I would like to see. But the scarcity is really bad to the point where if you can have some PvP gear, if you can have some crafted gear, you can have some dungeon gear, you can have some raiding gear, and boom, you have your Shoka peak of character with different pieces of gear, which is cool, and I like that. But you cannot lose that if they do like SOD. In SOD, what they do is every single raid you get like a crazy boost of stats, because they improve the gear to the point where literally if you can wear Nags gear, there is no reason for you to ever step foot into BWL, for example. And I think that is like the strength of Classic is the thing. You have so many raids that are still like good to run that it is very easy to alt, and it's also very easy to get like small wins at one point. While, for example, I'm going to say in SOD, I think since the numbers are so big, like you get so much a power boost that it really unbalanced everything. So please, the power creep should be considered. Like if you like the power difference between, like, I would say a new tier of raid, because let's say Nax is still like in Classic Plus. I don't know how they could do that, but I think that's something I'm going to talk a bit later into the video. But let's say they're putting Scarlet Enclave, for example, because they did that in SOD. It's an easy put into the Classic Plus. The gear should literally be like 2%, 3% more strong than in Nax. That's my opinion. It should not be 50%. It should not also not be 20%. Even 2 or 3% on every single piece of gear is already very big. It's very big. More than you would know, actually. Because your damage is higher, your numbers are higher, and it doesn't really F PvP up once you have the gear. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. I think Classic strength of Classic is the fact that every single activity is important. Every single activity. And that's something that I think got lost in SOD. And that's something I don't want to see. Also, number creep. You should not be able to do 20Ks on Classic. Period. That should not happen. It should not be that you're doing a 20k more strike. It should not be that you're doing a 20k chaos, not chaos bolt, but like a shadow bolt. That should not be in PvE and in PvP. That's my opinion. Except if you have like a crazy weakness on the character, for example, like in BWL, you can see some weaknesses on the mobs. You can then do big damage. why not? But like on a normal boss, a normal rotation, normal dungeon, normal raid, you should not be doing 20k shadow bolts, and that's my opinion. Don't shoot the messenger. What else? What else do I want to see from a Classic Plus? What do I do not really want to see in Classic Plus? What I do not really want to see is, again, those phases between levels 1 to 60. Just have one phase, 1 to 60, and that's it. Because you will lose eventually players anyways. Every single phase, every single season. To be honest, I think at this point we're not going to talk about phases anymore in Classic. If it's a Classic Plus, I think it's going to be Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, and then an expansion, Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, etc. That's how I see Classic Plus, because I want to have it a standalone game. I don't want to have a seasonal game where you reset the servers. And even then, like, it's very hard, because it's going to be eventually a seasonal server, because you're going to have raids, and raid tiers are like literally seasons. It is what it is. But like, at least it doesn't reset the server every single time. You're going to have to progress through MC again to see the new content. I don't want to have that. Now, let's talk about the things that I would like to see. Let's start with PvE. I think first phase, because it should be quick. I think Classic Plus should not be going MC, BWL, AQ, and Nax again. I think it kind of sucks, because you want to see the new things. I think the new things is the reason why you play Classic Plus. Obviously, you have the different changes on the classes, on the specs, and so that's something I'm going to talk about. But like, purely on a game, whenever you're going to go into the game, it should be already probably MC, BWL, everything should be out already. You're going to say, but you're crazy, Tokray, like, the power creep is already going to be bonkers, and that's true, because everything is going to be already out. Or like, maybe you should delete some raids. I know it's hard to say, right? It's one or the other. Or you speed up the phases, but people are not going to be happy about that. I think if you go through MC, BWL, AQ, and then Nax, you're going to lose players before Classic Plus ever like reach the Classic Plus thing, like the new content. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Like, let's say that MC, BWL comes out in the first phase, and then you have like AQ next on the second phase. Why not? Like, speed up, take both, and that's it. I think you should do something like that. I think, again, if you're making like a whole phase about MC again, then you should literally rework MC somehow, some way. So it means a new zone. It means maybe new bosses, new mechanics, new loot. It should be a revamped loot system. It should be, again, that every single piece in MC is actually like desirable for the classes that are actually targeted to those pieces. Like, for example, Devil Sword set, if it's not buffed, it should be replaced in raids. It should be a pre-raid bis, pre-bis raid, a pre-bis for raiding, but the bis is inside the raid. That it should be something like that. What I also want to see, so again, to summarize, in my opinion, MC, BWL out directly maybe, and then you have AQ next. Or like, they find a way to make it exciting enough to have MC going back again, then you need to rework something. You need to rework no heat system, F fire resist, for real. Like, please throw it out of the window, because it actually nullifies everything you're doing outside of the raids, because you're grinding for gear that you're not going to wear. I don't think it's good for PvE. So throw the fire resist needed. It should be something that you're wearing to make it easier though, but like not impossible to do it without it. Like, it should not be the case like this. What did I want to say? I wanted to say that MC should be like a novelty again. If not a novelty, then it should be skipped really fast. And you should maybe consider Nax to be reworked to the point of a Wrath of the Lich King Nax Ramus, I think. But also, maybe you should remove it and put it back up to a very late phase. I don't think chronologically it makes sense to fight Kel'Thuzad and then have to fight like Scarlet Monastery mobs, literally. I think Scarlet Enclave should be probably out with MC. I think that's an idea I have for PvE. If you're not like speeding up the current already like known raids in classic. It should be speed up to the point, not speed up, but it should be like that every single phase. So if you're talking about phases or seasons, for example, season 1, Molten Core, Scarlet Enclave. That makes sense because you're fighting Scarlet Monastery at like Western Plaguelands, but at the same time you're fighting the Fire Lord, which is Ragnaros. And then season 2 comes out, and you could have, for example, Black Temple, because you're fighting the Emerald Drakes, you're fighting blah blah blah. And then you have obviously BWL, which is then the Nefarian, which makes sense. And maybe Onyxia could also come out at that point with like buffed loot. Or you put Onyxia on the first phase. I don't really care too much. Maybe a full-on 40-man. I mean, that's also a discussion. Like, do I want to have 40 mans? I think we should go back to 20 mans, like 10 mans and 20 mans, like in TBC, like in 25 mans then, 25 mans and 10 mans. I think it's better to also have that for the guilds. It's also better for the class diversity. And since you're going to have some balancing, you're not going to stack like 20 warriors again. I think that's a good idea as well. I think going away from the 40 mans is probably a necessity for Classic Plus if you want to like have a lot of people being able to raid with guilds. I think 40 man is really hard to sometimes fill once the raids are like very deep into the seasons, for example. So maybe a 25 man raid, troll raid, why not? Maybe Hyjal, maybe like Black Temple. You could also add, like you could add a lot of the raids that are from TBC. You can add them actually on to like Classic Plus. I also want them to not have flying mounts and not go to different worlds. I think it should still keep on Azeroth, which is like Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. Because those are like the worlds where you have you want to have a lot of people playing, so the low levels and the high levels. I think that could be also fun. My idea is also that there is no level increase, so it keeps at level 60 until, if you say a new expansion, why not? Like if down the line 2 years later you have a new expansion, you come out with a level 65 or something like that. Don't put it 70 and try to keep, like, again, don't go to level 100. But again, that's like late game if Classic Plus is a success. Gear wise, tier sets. I think SOD has it right. You should be able to have tier sets for every single spec. Now, the truth is, the tier set should not be OP. So the power creep again. So it's something I already discussed, so I'm not going to go back. But if the power creep is crazy, then it's no point. Just don't have like crazy tier sets to the point where the power creep is going to be insane, that you are going to do 20k more strikes, for example. I also think that in Classic Plus you should have some balancing on the classes and specs for, again, PvE but also PvP. Don't go crazy balancing. You don't need to go TBC RAF levels. You can add some spells from those expansions. For example, Icelands for Frost Mage. It would be already obnoxious to fight a Frost Mage, but whatever, why not add that? Maybe charge into combat for warriors. Druids, for example, Mango is super big. Have some scaling on Rip and Rake. Could be also fun, because then you can actually use them in raids. Have some weapon scaling maybe for Druids. Resto Druid should have like HOTS being able to be applicable by all the Druids, and not just one Druid that is doing a rejuve. It should like have 10 rejuves, like in SOD pretty much. Life Bloom, very, very fun. Just keep that as well. Maybe like Tree of Life, why not? Could be also quite fun. For boomies, again, mana efficiency mostly. Have some hits on the talents as well, so you could also like a mage get some hits in raids. I think that's mostly the problem for Balance Raid, that it really just the hit is really hard to get. It's already very hard, but also you don't have a lot of scaling, and the gear is also really bad as well. So that's like an accumulation of like bad things that makes a Balance Raid not very good. I would say also for like HOTS and dots, it should be able to crit, and it should have a haste like a haste stat. Haste should be a thing, even though if it's, like, for example, that 1% attack speed for warriors, for example, on the enchants, it should also be able to do the same for cast times. That could be also quite good. What else? I think world buffs, you should not go crazy like in SOD. Keep the same world buff that you have or remove it completely, but don't add new ones. You don't need that. I think you don't want... I think the power creep and number thing is really like coming from a hack and slash mentality and retail pretty much, where you want to have bigger and better numbers, but less is more in a lot of situations. So have that as well. Again, class balancing, spec balancing, don't go overboard, but make every single spec in class desirable to a certain extent. How they did with TBC is actually a good example. You brought classes to buff other classes. And I know it's really difficult because in TBC you have kind of the mentality you want to have warlocks and hunters instead of warriors, for example. And they have also their mistake. TBC is not perfect. But I think it's better than what we have right now with 25 warriors, because they are the only class that actually has insane scaling on attack power, like for example Bloodthirst, and also execute being that strong. So you have a lot of things that are like in that realm that you could like work around. So that's for PvE. For leveling, let's talk about leveling as well. New leveling dungeons. Yes, leveling dungeons is something I want to see. So for example, a leveling dungeon, a new like Scarlet Monastery raid, new Scarlet Monastery dungeon, maybe a new level 50 to 60 dungeon that is like a pre-raid base. Why not? What else? A new dungeon between 30 and 40 with quests tied, maybe new questing zones, maybe new quests that were like implemented in TBC and RAF, implement that as well on the Classic Plus, pretty much. Make open world like exciting again, maybe new world bosses, as well, like maybe go back to the SOD world bosses where it's an instance that could be maybe not fun for the open world aspect. But truth is, I was doing world bosses in the beginning of Classic Anniversary with a guild, and it was a coalition, and frankly what we did is we griefed the other our own faction, their own coalition. So we griefed alliance while we are alliance. It really sucks. Like for me, this is like the downfall of Classic when it comes for world bosses. Like I think it's not fun to grief other like people from the same faction. We're like working against each other and we're not really fighting against Horde. I think it's also first come first serve kind of thing. I actually don't like that. So put in instance like 1 week lockout like they do in SOD. I think that's really fine. I think that's also a good idea. I think what SOD does is actually sometimes good. When it comes to like design of things. For example, incursion really sucks, but when it comes to instance world bosses, I actually like that. A lot of people don't like it. I think if you have done world bosses before, it's really just like a cesspool of people that are like trying to F them like themselves every single time when like Alliance is fighting the world boss. We try to get killed on Kazakh, especially to like get Kazakh healed to then make it wipe so we can then try ourselves. Like it really sucks. Like it's dumb. I don't like that. Remove it. I think that's it for like PvE. Maybe a bit of a leveling speed. It should not be maybe slow as in Classic, but like put a Classic plus speed. Not SOD, but also boosting. No more. Just you don't need to ban people, just make boosting not available anymore. So if you're level 60 and you're boosting level 20s, no XP for level 20s. I don't care. End of debate. It would kill boosting. The only boost that would maybe work is between level 50 and 60, but at this point I don't really care. But like for level 20s and level 40s and level 50, and I say that I'm very hypocritical because I do get boosted as well, but that's because it's available. If it's not available, I will not do it. And it's also like not against TOS, so just make it like available but useless. Okay, that's the first step. If you're level 60, you can only make people gain XP from level 52 and onwards. You can do something like that, and that's fine. Why not? If you want to boost people that are level 52, why not? Okay, now to the important stuff for me. PvP. PvP, very simple. It should be important. So it means that the ranking system, no more. So this, what I'm doing is really boring. I love PvP. PvP is my jam. Like, the only reason why I play World of Warcraft is because there is PvP. If there is no PvP, I would not play this game. Like, literally, I would just not touch World of Warcraft. That's my take. A lot of people are in the same shoes as me. Some people are saying PvP, we don't care, and that's fine. PvE is always going to be something that will exist in World of Warcraft. You will never be scared about PvE being gone. But we PvPers, we want to be important as well for Blizzard, because we know that they could pull the plug whenever they want. They could say, PvP, we don't care, that's it, that's what you have. And so, ranking system, no more. Go to the TBC system or Raft system or Cataclysm system. No arena points, no arena teams. You get the conquest, like for example what we have in Cataclysm Classic or in retail, where you can grind on your own leisure and you have a cap. So it means that you can grind every week your cap, and at one point in the season the cap is gone and you can get the conquest that you want from that cap. And you get rated arenas and you would get rated BGs. Now, I don't want to make random BGs not a thing anymore, so you should be able to still grind a lot of honor from random BGs, and you should be always having marks. The marks is very important. I really like the... it's a grind still, but I want to have Classic still be a grind. So, what we have in TBC is some pieces of gear requires honor, but also marks. For example, 20 Eye of the Storm marks, 20 Arati Basin marks. That should still be a thing in my opinion. So it means that you are still going to grind a lot of the BGs to just get the pieces that you want. But there is also a rated portion that it means that it's a bit better. For example, the epic gear. And every single season, when the raid comes out, for example, BWL comes out, the gear that you have is not obsolete, but if you want to have the better gear, you need to grind again for the new season that is coming out. And it's the same power level as the PvE rating set, but with different stats. For example, the PvP gear has barely hit, but a lot of crit, a lot of like raw stats, but also raw stamina. While the rating gear has great hit, great... for example, glass cannon feel like they have like no stamina but a lot of power. You can have like something like that. So if you want to go be a glass cannon PvP, you can do a bit of raids and you would get that those items. If you want to be a bit more sturdy to PvE as well, like if you want to have stamina, you want to be able to do dungeons without getting one-shotted, you would do a bit of PvP to get that. And as well, again, if you're doing raids and you just want to do raids, the gear of raiding is still like good for that. And if you want to just PvP, the gear from PvP is the best as well. So you can mix and match, but the gear from PvP is the best for PvP and the gear for raid is the best for raiding. But it doesn't make your damage go crazy if you go raid or you go PvP. It should not. It should be on the same level. So gear from PvP should do, for example, 2k more strikes, but gear from raids should do 2.3k, for example. Like something like that. You could do that, but the HP pools from raiding and from PvP is not the same. From PvP you get a bit more HP. You get maybe some resilience or whatever, like from TBC, you can find a way to have like player damage, incoming damage to be lower. But if from a raid you have less HP and you don't have resilience. For example, again, my suggestions are not perfect. It should be tweaked. But the idea is PvP gear is not stopping at one point. Like for example, what we do right now in Classic. Truth is, if you're doing like ranking in AQ and Nax, it gets like outscaled. So you have no reason to rank anymore past a certain point, especially if you're doing Classic Plus, you're going to have other raids with a bit more like stats. If you don't make it evolve as well, then it kind of sucks. What you could do is also like a one-time grind, but that kind of sucks because again, I think Classic is like at its best whenever you kind of need to grind a bit, but it is also like a bit skillful. So that's why I want arenas to be a thing. I want to have RBGs to be a thing. I want to have literally like not time spent, but wins to count the most. Wins, winning, be better, be stronger, and you get rewarded for it. I think that is the goal for Classic to be, like Classic Plus to be. Um, what would you do? What would you do? Well, I think for PvP, arenas you would say, but the CC is crazy long, and I agree. So I would nerf the CC. People are going to already bash me. Oh, Togray, I hate you. Polymorphs should be 20 seconds long. No, I think you could say TBC or RAF or Cataclysm. It's not perfect PvP either, like it is unbalanced. But the CC is not crazy enough to make me 20 seconds into a polymorph with the hard bit mechanic where it can sometimes break in 1 second. That sucks for the mage, and that sucks for the warrior as well. That sucks for like any class as well. And if you want to have PvP to be competitive, CC should be in line and realistic. And what else would I say? I would also say it should be bearable and outplayable as well. CC is important, but it should not be like 20-second polymorphs. And I think that's a good like compromise. I think also in general, what they did with Blood Moon event is crazy good. I like that. I think it should be a bit like, I think if the power creep and number creep is not like bad, it is actually one of the best things you can actually have in the game. Yeah, are you going to? Oh, of course. I think I'm dead. Yeah, I'm dead. But yeah, I think you could do a lot of stuff with PvP. They have shown it with Ashen Veil, with Blood Moon, with BRM, for example. They just need to do the same, but with like numbers not going like crazy. Like level 50 is doing level 60 amount of damage, for example, with Black Temple. Or with Gnomoragan, like the damage was really crazy. If it doesn't go overboard, it will be fine. I think that's mostly what I'm going to tell you. So that's for PvP. I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about Classic Plus. I think again, they should kind of go for a expansion thing. You need to buy to play. I know it's annoying, but if they get incentivized money-wise, they will not put shops first and foremost. They will also most likely not abandon the project. They're not going to say, "Oh, it's a seasonal thing. Next season, you're going to start over to level 1, and we're going to do another take on season, like season mastery, season of discovery." Just Classic Plus. No season of Classic Plus. Just Classic Plus. And it's going to be Gucci. Like you don't need to do anything else. It's going to be perfect. And yes, it will cost a bit of money, but I think if they put actual work with actual assets and not like rehashed assets from TBC, then I think it's worth to buy. I think if they use the same TBC like tier sets and whatnot, like that's super lazy. Don't do that. They could use assets from SOD. Why not make it better? Maybe like go back to the color scheme that they had in MC and BWL. But there are like things that they can do to make it like exceptional. But you need to actually like also think about monetary reasons to do a Classic Plus. If there is no reason to do Classic Plus like money wise, then they will not do it. They will going to half-ass that. So, and the subscription is not enough, because again, with the subscription you already have a lot of versions available. So it's not like going to be enough data or stats or money to justify a Classic Plus. That's my take. I don't know if I talked about everything I wanted to talk, but I think I talked about PvE, the raids, how they handle the seasons, how they handle the 1 to 60, how they handle the dungeons, how they handle the gear, the power creep, the number creep, how they handle PvP as well. It should still matter. It should be a 50-50 thing. If you want to do only PvP, it should be possible, definitely, in a way or another. And yeah, I think in general, you can have a lot of fun with now boring. You can have a lot of fun with making classic a thing, but that's mostly, yeah, depending on their like wants and needs. If they want to unlucky, it depends on their wants and needs if they want to like make it a success or not. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. Really, I appreciate you. Have a great day. Bye.